Good morning, fifth graders. I want to go over your assignment for today, and that is percentage. And then I will go review over geometry and introduction to the perimeter. Okay, so let's look at the introduction to percentages, and this is lesson 137. 137. Okay, you took your quiz yesterday. Hopefully you did pretty well. We've learned about decimals. Now we're going to learn about the percentages. Okay, so facts. A fraction expresses a part of a whole. Well, we know that. We've talked about that for years now, actually, if you want to know the truth. We started really talking about this more in third grade, but we know a fraction expresses a part of a whole. So they show you a rectangular shape, and they have it in halves. Well, how many halves do you have? How many was it divided up into? 2 groups, right? Well, of the triangle, how many is blue? Well, 1 out of 2, 1/2, right? Then we look at the next one. It says it has 4 little squares, which when you put them all together is going to make a whole square, right? Well, that whole square is divided up into 4 equal groups. 4 equal groups. You have 2 green, 2 blue. Okay? So if you were to say what part of that square is blue, well, if you had 2 parts out of 4 groups, you would have a half, right? If it was just 1, you would have 1/4. When you have 2, it's 2/4, which equals 1/2. A percent is another way to express a part of a whole. Percent means per hundred. Very important. A percent means per hundred. A percent equals 100. A whole is 100%. Okay? That is so important. Okay? So percent, your symbol percent is the 2, you can't see that, can you? The the little circle or 0 with the line or slash with another 0 or O, whatever you want to call it. I say 0. Okay? All right. So, with that said, if I was to say, if we went back to that first rectangle and I said that 1/2 of that rectangle was blue, that means 50% of it was blue, right? Because half of 100 is 50. Do you agree? Okay. Now, 1/2 of 100% equals 50%, which also equals 50 over 100, which also equals 1/2. So 1/2 of 100 equals 50%. Or you also could say 50% equals 50 over 100, right? Equals 1/2. Because when you reduce 50 over 100, you get 1/2. Because if you reduce, your factor you would use would be 50. How many 50s go into 50? 1. How many 50s can you make 100 with? 2. So 1/2. Okay? You need to learn these. 1/2 equals 50%. 1/10 equals 10%. 1/5 is 20%. 1/4 is 25%. 3/10 is 30%. 2/5 is 40%. 3/4 is 75%. I was going to say cents. And 7/10 is 70. 3/5 is 60%. 9/10 is 90%. And 4/5 is 80%. Okay? 4/5 is 80%. All right? So I would like for y'all to learn those. A fraction expresses a part of a whole. Another way to express a part of a whole is by a percent. We can say that 1 dime is 10% of a dollar, right? Because it's worth 10, its value, and you have 1. Okay? A quarter. If I was to say 1/4, how many quarters do you need in a dollar? 4. 1/4 is going to be 25 because 1/4 is 25, right? Well, if you had 2/4, which equals 1/2, is 50. So 50%. 3/4 is going to be 75% because 3/4 is 75. Okay? Think about it that way. 2/4 of a dollar is 50. 3/4 of a dollar is 75, right? 4 dimes, 4/10. What's that? That's 40. 5/10, 50. Also, you want to use 10/10, 100. 1, right? Because it equals a whole, which would be a whole part, would be 100% of the whole part. Okay? All right. Class practice number 1. Write the fraction and the percent for blue parts of each figure. You have to read those directions. They want to know the percent and the fraction for the blue parts. So, A, the fraction. How many equal groups do we have? How many is it divided up into? 4. So, we know our denominator is 4. How many blue parts do you have out of those 4? You have 1. So your fraction there is 1/4. Then what is your percent? Let's go back for what I had just said to you. How many quarters do you need to make a dollar? 4. Well, what is 1/4? 25. So your percent is 25%. Okay, that was A. B, how many equal groups do we have? How many groups is it divided up into? 10. How many are blue? 1. So your fraction's 1/10. And your percent, 1 dime is how much? 10. 10%. I want you to do 2 by yourself. 3, answer the questions about the spinner. What is the probability that the spinner will land on 6? Well, how many possibilities do we have? Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 3A, you have 10 possible, but how many 6s do you have? 1. So 1/10. 1/10. So what percentage do you have to land on 6? 10%. Okay? You can do B and C. I am not making you do the back. I am not making you do those problem-solving strategies. Okay? Let's review over our geometric, sorry, let me slow down. Let's review over our geometry, our geometric shapes, okay? And identifying the figures. So on class practice 1 for lesson 138 for tomorrow, you have your first shape is a square. You should know that. You should know the next one. It's a circle. I think y'all can do those. Now, on that last shape, yes, it is a triangle, but it's a certain kind of triangle, okay? Look at it closely, all right? Number 2, answer these questions about the geometric figures. What fraction part is a polygon? What percent is a polygon? Okay. What fraction part is a polygon? What do y'all think? First off, what is a polygon? What is a polygon? Well, how many shapes do you have up there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you know that your bottom number is going to be 5. Okay? 5. This is 2A. How many out of those 5 are polygons? 4. The only one that is not is that circle. Okay? So 4/5. 4/5 are the fractional part of what is a polygon. What's your percentage? 80%. 80%. What fractional part has a right angle? A right angle. Okay, this is going to be tricky. So your fraction, you know your denominator is going to be 5 because that's how many shapes we have. Now, does that square have a right angle or right angles? Well, yes, it does. Look. It's showing those boxes in each angle. So that's indicating that you have right angle. You actually have 4 right angles. Circle? No. Doesn't have any angles. What about your octagon? Your pentagon? You have 2. So far we have 2 shapes now that have right angles. What about that right triangle? Well, yes. So now you have 3. So you have 3 out of 5 of those shapes that are right angles, and that is a 60%. 60% of those shapes are right angles. Okay? I'll let you do that the rest yourself. Okay? You are to identify the type of triangle by the measures here. Okay? Remember, if you go back, you have your what you learned on Monday about your angles and your triangles. Go back to that sheet. Or if you wrote them in your notes like you should, you could go to your notes and look what the definition of what kind of triangle it is according to the measures, okay? So you look at 7, 8, and 9. That right there is going to answer those, okay? Then you have to match. Then you are to tell me the number of degrees in that third angle. And remember, I did this on Monday if you watched the video. Number 5A, 60 degrees and 30 degrees are two of my angles in my triangle. How many degrees does the whole triangle equal? It equals 180. 180. So if I was to add these two up, 60 and 30, I would get 90. So you would subtract. You would subtract 180 minus 90 to see what that third degree angle is. And that would be a 90-degree angle, because 90 degrees plus 60 degrees plus 30 degrees is going to give you 180 degrees. It all has to add up. On number 9 on the back, change to decimals or mixed decimals. Okay, so your first one, A, it has 57 thousandths. So that means 57 is going to represent the thousandths place. So do I have anything in my tenths place? No. So it goes 0.057. You have to think of the place value. You have your decimal, the tenths place, the hundredths place, and the thousandths place. Okay? So this is how you would write this. Then I want you to look at C, 19 tenths. 19 tenths. That's going to be a mixed decimal. That is going to be 1.9. I'm going to tell you a secret. Want to know the secret? When you have them in fraction form and they're over 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, those zeros are telling you how many numbers you're going to have behind your decimal. See, this is how I knew that that was going to be 1.9, because there's 1 0. So I knew that my decimal went in between the 1 and the 9 because I only had one number behind that decimal. The same with the 1,000. How many zeros do you have in 1,000? You have 3 zeros. So you have to have 3 numbers. And I knew I did not have anything in my tenths place. So you would put the 0 there and put 57 behind it. Okay? If it would have said 57 hundredths, you have 2 numbers because you have 2 zeros because of 100. So it'd be 0.57. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's an easy way of remembering it, I think. Okay, let's go to Friday's lesson real fast so that you have this all on here. and you are able to do it, and I can download it because it sure takes me forever to download these videos, and I apologize. I'm trying as hard as I can. Introducing perimeter. The perimeter of a polygon is the distance around the polygon, okay? The perimeter is found by adding the length of all the sides. So the perimeter is like the outside of the shape, okay? You're measuring the outside of the shape, all right? So when you do that, to find the perimeter, it equals P equals A plus B plus C. Okay? Another way that can be, that's for a triangle, I should say. I apologize. Now for your rectangle, okay, you have a formula, and that is, there's many ways of doing this. You have P equals 2 times your length plus 2 times your width. And why you do that, it's a shorter way, because this is what you're doing. You're going P equals length times length times width times width. So it's a little shorter way. Instead of adding all those numbers up, you can just say, okay, I got 2 lengths, so I multiply that number to 2, and I have 2 widths. So you would multiply the 2 widths. You would multiply it by 2, sorry, instead of adding. I apologize. Then you would add both of your answers together. So if you look at the example they gave you, you have your length as 4 and your width as 3. So you would come over here and go P equals 2 times your length is 4, your width was 3. Do you see that? I plugged in what the length measure was and the width measure. Now I'm going to multiply what's inside my parentheses first before I add them. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 2 times 3 is 6. So you get 14 meters. Don't forget your unit. So you're just plugging in the numbers. Use that formula, okay? Class practice number 1, solve the story problems. Mr. Hill plans to put a rectangular fence around his yard. His yard is 96 yards long and 49 yards wide. How many yards of fencing does he need? Let's do our formula. P equals 2 times, what's my length? 96 yards. Plus 2 times, what's my width? My width was 49 yards. So I set it up just like that. So let's multiply. Let's go. 96 times 2, that's 12. 19, so that's 192, plus 49 times 2, that's 18, that's 8, that's 9, 98. So now add 192 plus 98. That's 10, that's 9, that's 290 yards. 290 yards is your answer. I just did that one for you. Look how I did it. Okay? That's how you do that. On the triangle, you just add up all three sides. So on 2A, you're going 9 plus 7 plus 5. That's all you're doing on that one. On B, you're just doing, well, you can do 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12, or why couldn't you go 12 times, how many 12s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 times 6. Okay? And then they give you more on the back on 3. They just say, okay, the length is 6 feet, the width is 5 feet. You just plug that into the formula like we just did. Okay? All right. I think the rest is explanatory. You were able to do it. Now, on Monday, I will go over the perimeter of a square. We'll do I think that's all we're going to do. I don't think we're going to convert measures to find perimeter. But I like to go over the area, the concept of area, an area of a rectangle, an area of a square, and maybe go just review over what a square root is. And then I think what we'll do is we'll stop there and we'll just start reviewing everything because I feel like we've covered enough for the year. We've gotten so close this year. And I know it gets hard, especially with you not being in the classroom and having to kind of learn this on your own. Okay. Like I've always said, you're welcome to call or text or FaceTime me if you need help. Alrighty. Y'all have a good rest of the week and weekend. And like I said, I'll be back on Monday. Alrighty. All right. Stay well.